Alright, good afternoon, class. How's everybody doing today?
Very good.
My refutation speech today is about the TSA, and before I begin my refutation, I would like to restate the advocate's claims, which is first, air cargo is rarely inspected, especially on ones that pass through passenger airplanes. And second, the pat-downs and search at airports are unnecessary because they are not effective. And third, the no-fly list does not inform people about how they are on it, and that is unable to include all the names of the terrorists, which is also unnecessary. In my argument pertaining to the first claim, ever since the incident of 9/11, President Bush signed into law in August 3rd, 2007, legislation requiring the Secretary of Homeland Security to establish a system to screen 100% of cargo transported on passenger aircraft. All of the cargo on the 96% of flights originating in the United States is now screened, and 85% of the passengers flying each day from the U.S. airports are and 85% of the passengers flying each day from the U.S. airports are on planes where all the cargo has been fully screened. Secondly, in regards to the pat-downs at airport security, the advocate stated in his secondary claim that, and I quote, "The invasive pat-downs and full body scanner cannot catch determined attackers," unquote. So this is the question I would like to propose. If this overwhelmingly strict method of security already leaves rooms for terrorists to achieve their means, then is the advocate suggesting that we should just take it out completely and at the same time loosening our security to even more potential violence? Thirdly, in his last argument, the advocate brings out the problems about the TSA no-flying list. With that, he includes two problems that, in his opinion, would make the no-fly list a not-agreeable method of protection. The two problems are not all terrorists are named in the list, and no one really knows how the list is supposed to work. In my rebuttal, I say that if all known terrorists are named and documented, I would like to throw the gloves in this argument to make a statement that we should stop all means of airport security, since we all know exactly who is a terrorist and who is not. For the second reason, all terrorists would want their true identity and intentions to remain hidden from the authorities. That could go both ways. The authorities would not want to divulge all of their methods for catching the bad guys, because it would be extremely difficult to catch someone if they know exactly what you do, so they could figure out how to avoid you. But in reality, the TSA worked closely with Congress for more than 6 months to significantly strengthen the security in air cargo and body search through the 9/11 bill, which is signed into law by President Bush. The TSA has tripled the amount of cargo required for inspection and tripled the amount of cargo inspectors in the field to enforce these requirements. Brian Jenkins, who studies terrorism for the RAND Corporation, states that there are more terror accidents, which is 12, including thwarted plots on U.S. soil in 2009 than any year since 2001. As a more concrete argument, I would like to use an example of a much recent terrorist attempt in December 25th of last year by a Nigerian national by the name of Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab. According to the Wall Street Journal, Muttalab has harbored radical religious thoughts ever since he was young, and was noticed by his father, who informed authorities that he might be attempting a terrorist attempt. Muttalab's name was not inserted into the no-fly list before he already executes his plot, only to be luckily subdued by the passengers. My point is, with more time and additional investigation into such suspects would allow the authorities to get the upper hand. Muttalab has allegedly tried to light up explosives while Flight 253 was making a landing in Detroit. He had an explosive device close to his groin and was successful at initial ignition of the device, causing smoke to billow in the cabin. This example further proves my point that however invasive the pat-downs are, it is really for the air traveler's safety. And apparently terrorists are still finding ways to get past security. So in conclusion, there are really no reason for us to reduce or change the airport security. Thank you.
All right, the advocate's claims are labeled pretty well. You have a discussion on the first point about the screening of the cargo, and there's a whole bunch of statistics on it that suggest that we're becoming more effective, that we've got a law in place that's increasing that, and ultimately it's going to be required. I think that's all a very good argument, and you've got a couple of good statistics on that. You do need to give us a source citation on that statistic, because if 85% of all passengers are traveling on planes where all the cargo has been searched, that should give us a greater deal of confidence in the problem that the advocate was talking about on that particular point, and that's a really good evidential response that directly contradicts what the advocate was saying on that particular point. One other thing that you might want to do is you might want to contrast the evidence that you've got with the evidence that the advocate used. I don't remember what the advocate actually said, but for instance, if there was limited or just a hypothetical in that particular situation, you've got something that's a lot more concrete for comparison, and that's one of the things that you want to do is make those hard comparisons. On the issue of the pat-downs, you've got a reasonable reasoning challenge here. You know, the alternative is that we have looser security. So if you think it's they can still get around the strict requirements now, do you think that if the requirements were looser, they would be any less likely to get through? That's a pretty reasonable question to ask in this context. One of the things that you do point out later on is that there is a good reason to have this kind of pat-down, because the example that you used at the end of the speech, and so I was kind of wondering why that was in that separate category as opposed to being on that particular point. On the no-fly list, you know, it's basically a similar challenge that you're making on the other point about the pat-downs, and it's about the reasoning that's going on there. I thought you had some good information on these points. You're not always consistent about citing it. We did get the one citation from Jenkins toward the end that talked about the terrorist plots that had been thwarted in 2009, and I thought that that was pretty good. You know, and you've got the example, although I think it's a pretty well-known example, so source citation on it's not quite as critical on that point. All right. Thank you.